There are now warnings that, quote, no one is safe, and that everybody should be worried about the potential denaturalizations and denaturalization discussions that might be getting supercharged under Donald Trump's new administration. In this video, I'm going to break down what denaturalization is. We're going to talk about, is this something that applies to you? What class of citizen are you? Are you a first-class citizen, or are you a second-class citizen? Citizen, not non-citizen. We'll talk about that. And we'll understand a little bit more why these discussions are coming up, as well as whether or not you should actually be worried about this. Now, keep in mind, I actually have my passport right here, and what's worth noting is that I was a naturalized citizen, which means I was not actually born in the country, which makes this particularly an interesting conversation for me, because what if Kevin is subject to this? I'll have to make these videos from back in my homeland, Germany. No! They're in a recession. Oh man, maybe that's where the Bears belong anyway. Anyway, let's get into this. So here's the thing. A lot of this discussion is going on because Stephen Miller, who worked with Donald Trump in the first Trump administration, has begun talking about plans for supercharging denaturalizations. And this has gotten people crazy on the internet. Jack P. writes, "We used to strip foreign-born anarchists and communists of their citizenship and deport them. Laws still on the books, just planting seeds." That was in October of 2023. And in October of 2023 also, which is now revived because Donald Trump has won. Donald Trump hasn't brought this up again, but this is being revived and everybody's talking about it because now Donald Trump has won. It's being revived because Stephen Miller wrote, "Yes, we started a new denaturalization project under Donald Trump in 2025, expect it to be turbocharged." Well, 2025 is around the corner, and now we got to ask ourselves, what even is denaturalization? So here's how it works. When you come into the country legally, like I did, we ended up coming as temporary residents under a work visa. And in the future, after applying for it, we got what's known as a green card. This was through the INS, which was the Internal Naturalization Service. That was before the Department of Homeland Security was created in 2003. And I still have vivid memories of going into the INS office and the worker there taking my fingers and crushing them to take all my fingerprints. I don't know why it's such a vivid memory, but I've never forgotten it. And since then, we were all permanent residents. Now, after I was a permanent resident for many years, and right before a few years before I ended up getting married to my wonderful wife, Lauren, I ended up becoming a citizen by applying. I had been here for, I believe the requirement is 5 years, and I'd been here long enough. I think I applied after, frankly, 10 years of being a permanent resident or more than that. And the reality is, got my citizenship approved after doing an interview, filling out an application, waiting for the period of time, not necessarily in that order. But then I became a citizen, which gave me an American passport as a dual citizen and the eligibility to vote in elections, be drafted, although I'm too old for that. Did you know the draft ends at 26? Anyway, and obviously serve in jury duty. These are part of our civic duties. Well, that makes me a naturalized citizen. This is different from a birthright citizen. If you were born in the United States, you have citizenship through birth. And this would be considered, in the case of denaturalization, a first-class citizenship. The reason if you have citizenship through birth, it is considered first class is because it is enshrined in the Constitution, natural born essentially. Now the second class citizenship, there really are no classes of citizenship right now, but the reason people suggest there might be a second class of citizenship is because if you were naturalized, then that could potentially mean, aha, you are subject to denaturalization. So what the heck is denaturalization? Well, the New York Times did a great piece on this all the way back in 2020. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the New York Times, but it gives you some background on what was going on during the Trump administration and this move to, quote, bring justice to terrorists, war criminals, sex offenders, and other fraudsters. Now, don't worry. The problem goes way beyond this, and there's a reason why, quote, no one is safe. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But basically, the Justice Department has a way of stripping people of their citizenship if they commit crimes and they have that second class of citizenship. In other words, they were naturalized. Now, what crimes could this potentially apply to? Like, if you run a stop sign, are you going to get kicked out? Probably not. It's probably going to apply to things like affiliates, those who support or work for a terrorist group, genocide and human rights abuses, serious criminal offenses like crimes against children, sexual offenses against children, or other violent crimes against children or other groups, fraud on your citizenship application, and just straight up terrorism. Now, why is this a concern for people? Because it kind of seems logical that if you are just not a terrorist, you might not have anything to worry about here. Well, the concern is a slippery slope, which unfortunately in politics, it is extremely common for people who support Donald Trump to listen to what Trump says and assume the best. And people who do not assume the best and don't like Donald Trump, they not only assume the worst, but then they embark on the slippery slope of fallacious argumentation of suggesting, oh, well, if he can take your citizenship away for doing a crime, that means no one is safe, because that means any crime could make you eligible for denaturalization and subsequent deportation as you lose your constitutional rights. Donald Trump is trying to strip your constitutional rights, and everybody should be shaking in their boots because a dictator's about to take over. That's an example of a slippery slope, but it's an argument that's actually being made right now. Now, I promise you, I don't want to bore you with this, so I'm not going to actually put you through all of this. In fact, honestly, I don't think I'm going to put you through any of it, but
so let's talk about the things that Trump has said he's going to do, or people close to him have said the administration is going to do. Number one is mass deportations of undocumented immigrants. The second is
denaturalization. We'll leave it there. I'm not going to go into it because honestly, this rambles on for like many minutes about denaturalization and how bad it is and how it's going to basically apply to everyone. The principle of a slippery slope argument is you take a basic argument and then you assume from there that, well, if they can deport terrorists because that's a crime, then they can deport people who kill people because that's a crime. And if they can deport people and denaturalize people who kill people and commit a crime, then they could do that to people who steal from a store. And if they can do that to somebody who steals from a store, then they can do it to somebody who runs a stop sign or has tinted windows or jaywalks. And then they argue the extreme. Anybody who jaywalks can get deported. That's not what Donald Trump has said. In fact, Donald Trump has never indicated any of that, or he has never done that. In fact, here's some examples of deportations followed by, or denaturalizations followed by deportations in the past. New York Times wrote, someone helped revoke the citizenship rights of a Yugoslavian-born convicted war criminal who omitted from her naturalization application the fact that she had executed unarmed civilians during the 1990s Balkan conflicts. Okay. Did Obama pursue any denaturalizations? Yes. Obama did this too. And he didn't get the slippery slope arguments. Obama targeted people who lied on their applications and committed other crimes. So Obama did this as well. And yes, it is true, denaturalization applications, in other words, referrals for denaturalization, did ramp up under the Trump administration. Of the 228 denaturalization cases that were filed since 2008, going all the way to 2020, so in a 12-year plan, 40% of them, so nearly half, were during the Trump administration. In fact, in just those 3 years between 2017 and 2020, denaturalization cases skyrocketed 600%. So yes, Donald Trump does like denaturalization cases, and they did, Stephen Miller at least, it's not Trump, but Stephen Miller does suggest they would ramp this up. Now, what's an example of a Trump naturalization or denaturalization case? How about when a naturalized citizen was denaturalized for recruiting people to Al-Qaeda in the United States and then also sexually abused a 7-year-old family member? Okay, these are the most extreme examples that the New York Times could find to bag on Donald Trump. And unless you're executing unarmed citizens or recruiting people to Al-Qaeda and sexually abusing 7-year-olds in your own family, I don't know that you really need to be worried about this, but it doesn't stop the the hyperbolic nature of the ACLU. The American Civil Liberties Union. The Trump administration has launched a denaturalization operation, a project to strip a large number of Americans from their citizenship. Denaturalization is a drastic measure that should be taken in the most extreme circumstances only. U.S. citizens could be added to a list of targeted individuals and thereby sending a message that no one is safe in America. Lawful permanent residents may be scared to pursue citizenship because their lives could get destroyed and their citizenship could get taken away along with their rights. Okay, ACLU, I get it. You need some more donations here. But what about rights? Let's talk about rights for a moment and understand this. Could you lose constitutional rights by being denaturalized? And could people like Elon Musk be a victim of this? Or Melania Trump? Or my father-in-law? Or myself? Well, yeah, theoretically, yeah, because we're all naturalized citizens. But, okay, let's understand for a moment. If you get denaturalized, what kind of rights do you lose? Well, you may end up getting convicted, first of all, in a denaturalization case, in a trial of your peers, but there is a lower burden of proof required. And so this does make it a concern that potentially political enemies could use it against people they don't like to get them denaturalized. The burden of proof is not beyond a reasonable doubt for a denaturalization case. This is considered a civil case, and it's actually as low as just requiring a burden of proof of clear and convincing evidence. Then you can get denaturalized. And once you're denaturalized, you could actually potentially lose some of your constitutional rights, including your rights to due process, or quite frankly, your right to remain silent. See, once you're denaturalized, now you're no longer a citizen or a permanent resident, you might lose some of your constitutional protections and then get deported. Or worse, the slippery slope is now you don't have your rights and you're stuck here and they just beat you until you talk because you have to, because you have no constitutional rights anymore. All of this, I think, is extreme. I am a naturalized citizen and I have zero concerns over this. All of this seems highly overblown. Here's an idea. Just don't be convicted of, quote, clear and convincing evidence of sexually assaulting 7-year-old children in your family, committing genocide, or recruiting people into terrorism or committing terrorism. And frankly, in that case, I think you'll be okay. And if you do some of those things, well, God willing, I hope you get denaturalized.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.